cut the grass, it always makes it grow.
Right, good morning, welcome back. Okay, day 32 Hayabusa build, and at long last I can actually start on some fabrication of bodywork. So the very first job is to fabricate a calf racer style tail unit. That's essential if I'm to make the look, so make a start on it today by preparing the frame to then put the bodywork on afterwards, because everything starts with the foundation. It's made of steel, it's easy to modify, so let's get stuck in. Now I feel at home. Alright, first job with the grinder is to cut off some of the extraneous lugs and fittings that I definitely will not need under any circumstances. That will just clean things up so I can see it a little bit better and see what potential I've got lying within the existing factory frame. So let's get cutting. There we are. Now I'm getting metal filings in my nice new chain. Okay, that's it. That's been an hour just to get all that lot off. And these little things, this is not scrap. Don't chuck this away. On all of these little tabs, that's a 3mm thick solid steel tab, and I can weld that on somewhere else when I need a tab. And having that in my hand is a lot less fabrication than having to make one from a piece of raw material. Same goes for this. This is a little reinforced tab with a captive thread on the back. Keep that. So are these, although I've bent them to get them out, they're mild steel so they can be bent into any shape I want. And I've got two M6 captive threads there, always useful for later on. And best of all, these two bits here, that's a solid piece of bar that was used to hold the entire sort of tail panel work on. And it's drilled and threaded in the centre there all the way down. So that is actually quite useful. I can weld that on elsewhere I might need it. So with all this stuff, when you're cutting it all off and tidying up, even this handle with these nice curves which I might need, there's treasure in your scrap. Don't chuck it away. Well, not just yet anyway. Right, okay, now that's all lopped off. Now that's just a pile of jagged cut edges. So switch over from the cutting disc, one of these, a 1mm slitting disc I've been using, to a sanding disc, and then clean up all the rough edges and see where I am now. Right, incidentally as well, I'm leaving this section at the back, not on the job. I'm cutting this out in a minute. I'm going to cut this off entirely. That's why I haven't locked these four off here, because this whole rear piece, I'm going to keep it. What I did, just common sense, was I retained the original factory seat lock, and these two welded bolts on this solid piece of box section are what the seat lock bolts to. Now that means if I retain that, if I leave that as it is and just cut it out and preserve it to one side, I've got a seat lock, I've got the plate as well, and later on I can clip my new tail panel down onto the seat lock, the factory seat lock. I'll just relocate it to where it needs to be. I'll relocate the bottom half and the top half so that they match each other, tie up, snap together in place, so I can put my nice Cafe Racer tail unit panel straight down onto the frame, click, and it will be removable with the factory key that fits the ignition as well. And that's a nice touch, don't you think? Right, now this is a sanding disc. That's what I'm going to use to clean it all up. It's far better than a hard disc. You get the 3mm thick hard grinding discs, that will make a fantastic job of taking out all those sharp edges, but this is better because it's soft and flexible and it's a little bit more forgiving. It doesn't leave all the ripples and digs that you're bound to get inevitably with a hard disc. It's a much better way to do it. There are flat discs, you can use them, but they tend to leave a rounded finish, and because they're indiscriminate and very soft and squashy, when you're trying to grind something flat, they will grind around the thing that you're trying to grind as well, a bit like a tyre rolling over a pebble. You won't get that hard edge. This is a little bit smoother, it keeps its line, and it will take down the item that you're trying to grind off without doing too much damage to the surrounding metal. You just got to be a bit careful with it, the way you physically use it. And because it's flexible, you can't use it on its own, it has to have a backing pad. It's a 3M product, so it's top quality, and you simply put that on the front like that. You get a little arbor in the middle there that screws in, and the whole lot screws into your grinder, and that is a far better way to smooth out rough edges on metal when you're going to weld them than it is to use a hard disc. It's also good for cleaning up metal ready for welding because it's really quick. Also, you can get finer ones than 36. 36 just takes care of business nice and quick. Okay, the task at hand is to make a curved or rounded tail frame. So this subframe at the moment is square at the rear. I want to cut the rear square end off, and then the two pipes that we're pointing backwards are an outside diameter of 20mm. Yep, there we go. 20mm, that's the outside diameter. And the inside diameter of these two pieces of pipe, I've got this piece of stainless. This is seriously good quality stainless. This came from the local scrapyard. It was left over from a brewery, I believe, and it's food grade stainless steel. Proof of that, grab a magnet, doesn't even touch it. That is seriously top grade stainless, so it'd be nice to use that. I can't bend that because that's going to be seriously strong. Then I've got that, which is a simple piece of mild steel tube that's been chromed, and that came from a table leg, from a garden table. So there's two options. Theory, I don't know, perhaps a stronger piece of stainless tubing that's kind of extremely strong and tough. When I heat it, perhaps it will bend better and give me a nicer frame, or perhaps a piece of softer stuff will bend, but heat has to be involved because I haven't got a pipe bender. It's just more fabricating equipment that I don't have. It's the way it goes. I've got my English wheel, so I can make the nice rounded panel to go over it, but the frame underneath, I need a rounded piece of steel, a nice U-shaped that's exactly the right width of those two bars. Before I cut them off, anything else, I want to do just first, if I can experiment, heat this up in the centre and see if I can put a curve in it and keep curving it with the method that I used for the bar, which is just little tiny movements over and over and over as you come round, and hopefully it won't kink. And with a hammer at the same time, if there's any kinkage happening, if it starts to expand widthways as I'm starting to curve it, I can tap that back in. Perhaps it'll work, perhaps it won't, but it's a piece of scrap pipe, doesn't owe me anything. Picked it up in the scrap when I was over the tip. Let's see if I can make a curve for the back of my Cafe Racer. Wish me luck. here we are, just a practice run on the piece of mild steel, and the answer is yes, it can be done. You have to be careful, tiny little movements like there to there, that little bit, and it works okay. It goes a little tiny bit at a time. If it's nice and hot, you get red all the way around it, you just get a nice little bit of movement and you do get the curve. It's kind of flattened very slightly, but obviously you're curving a piece of tubing. It should just flatten and kink, and I've managed to prevent it doing that. The spanner helps because it's a circle and it's holding it in a circle, acting a little bit like a mandrel and holding it, but I haven't got a pipe bender, so I can't do it any better than this. This is just a little bit of a ghetto fix, and it's worked to a degree. I mean, I've learned not to push too hard because you get big nasty kinks like that, and that won't do. So I'm going to try now with the big piece of stainless tubing. Hopefully the stainless tubing is a bit stronger, so it won't be so prone to kink, and I should be able to put a little bit more movement in it. I've learned from doing this one not too much force because that causes it to kink. If it's not going to go, if it doesn't go, come out a bit more heat and then it goes easier the second time. So lessons learned, practice piece is always useful. There we are. First ever little piece of tubing bent without a pipe bender. Ghetto fix. Don't you love them, eh? Right, wish me luck. Let's get on with this one. I'm going to lock that end off just so that I can actually get the spanner over it, and then we'll see if I can do this one as well. Right, so far a whole heap of success with that. Check it out. That is a pretty cool bend considering it's done with a ring spanner and a vise. It's obviously not enough, that's just over 90. I've got to bring it round a lot more. So what I'm going to try and do is let it cool right off till it's completely cold, in the hope that the heat would have annealed it slightly, and then put it in the vise sideways on, and that way crush back some of the flattening that's gone on. It has flattened a little bit, not kinking, it's just the whole thing's flattening as it's curving, which is normal for any tubing. As you can see, it's thinner there than it is there, so I want to kind of flatten that out using the big vise, squash that back into shape, then have another go at putting the last of the 90 degrees in that. It's going to be a big task and it'll probably use all of my gas, but it's well worth it, because if I can make a piece of stainless tubing curve perfectly for the rear, that'll be an absolute win on every front. That seriously will. Who needs a pipe bender? There we go. Right, let that cool off and hopefully that'll anneal it a bit, give it a bit soft. There we go, perfectly back round again. So now that curve is coming, it needs a bit more work yet. That curve hasn't kinked at all. There's ripplage, as you can see, there's kind of rippling on the inside, but those ripples are more like dents from the spanner than actual ripples due to it squashing up too much. Either way, it's working, don't care. Awesome. Still a bit warm. Perfect. Okay, that's the frame loop done. The rear loop is the backbone of any calf racer tail, and that's absolutely bang on. I'm really happy with it. The curvature itself, I've managed to get it perfect, which I'm really surprised about doing it that way, because it just could have gone lopsided, it could have been abruptly bit, elbows in it everywhere, but it didn't. It went absolutely perfectly. The trick seemed to be little and often, tiny little movements, and then just keep going, and if it's not enough, don't bring it all in at once because it'll kink in the middle. So just common sense and keep working on it, keep working on it. And in the end, the trick is just patience, because that took 4.5 hours just to do that bit. The rest of it was cleaning this up and just lopping off the bits and pieces. But 6 hours today just to make that. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits. It'll be ever so easy to fit. Now I've got all of the dimensions right. That just fits straight on there. Slides in. I'll probably chop it a little bit shorter. I think it's a bit long at the moment. I want to bring it in a little bit more, perhaps an inch or two, and then it'll just be welded. Bent down a bit so it's completely flat. At the moment it shouldn't kick upwards, it should be completely flat, calf racer style, and then bring that flat line along the top to the tank, round the tank, and then obviously bring some bodywork down over it later on so it looks quite cool. But it'll be a flat seat going straight into a back support and then the curve downwards, the classic shape, and you can't achieve any of that unless the loop at the back is bang on and perfectly symmetrical all the way around. Then I've got a great base to roll my bodywork out and make it onto. Talking of the bodywork, I've ordered some brass sheet metal, 1.2mm sheet brass, just an A4 size piece as an experiment. It's cost me £15 just to buy that one piece. It's expensive stuff, but I want to use it just as a practice on the English wheel, so I'll bring that to you shortly, just to show you how it works and also to learn for myself how it works. I found out with the brass, it's different to aluminium. It's not as elastic, it tends to snap if you're a little bit cheeky with it and you push it too far. So I'm going to see if I can wheel the brass as well as I've managed to wheel the aluminium. If I can, then go ahead, we're going to make the bodywork out of brass, but if I can't, then it'll be aluminium, perhaps I'll use copper rivets or something. Just cool stuff, picking up that steampunk look in the future. But there it is for today. We've made the loop. Step one. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The frame I've got to continue making, lock these off, web it in underneath so this looks self-suspended or self-supporting, all that sort of thing in the future. But there we are, that's it for today. I really appreciate all your amazing support for this. Thank you for watching. Take it easy, ride safe. We'll see you next time.
How comes I always cook far too much spaghetti? And why is no clever scientist ever interviewed a Yeti? How comes retail prices always end in 99? And how comes my computer doesn't work all the time? I don't know, don't ask me mate, I don't know, don't ask me mate, I don't know, I haven't got a clue mate, I don't know, don't ask me, I haven't got a clue mate, I don't know.